And it's funny, I don't know that I knew I was a lifer in the beginning. I just loved to create, and I was drawn in just because of, I mean, it was a whole different world back then. When I started, there was no internet really. It was like, I mean, there was internet. I'm going by that far. But there was no Facebook, there was no like YouTube, no Instagram, none of that stuff existed. So it was all face to face. And I think that's what really drew me in originally was the community.
Welcome to the Other 99% podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Duck, a coffee-loving direct sales enthusiast who's obsessed with a good digital system. Come join me for a realistic look into the world of direct sales. We'll explore inspiring perspectives, learn about unique business tips, and celebrate success stories that often go untold. Because on the Other 99%, every seller matters.
Hey everyone, it is me, Lisa, and welcome back to another episode of The Other 99%. I'm super excited to be here again with my co-host, Susan Larimer, and we have our special guest, Jen Bach here. Jen is from Stampin' Up, and Jen, I just want you to jump in, sort of tell our listeners who you are, what you do, all that stuff, but I would really love for you to give us a little insight about how Jen's life was before direct sales and what caused you to jump into direct sales.
It's going way back. So I am with Stampin' Up. I've been with Stampin' Up for it'll be 19 years in January. And before that, I actually started with Party Light, and then I did Creative Memories, and I was like, I'm not going to do any more direct sales. Like, I'm done with this. And I got engaged for the first time, and I decided I wanted to make my own wedding invitations, and that's kind of how it all started with Stampin' Up. I was already kind of crafty. I went to our local craft store. I was a VIP at the craft store, so it just made sense for me to kind of find some crafty outlets, and I had a friend who did a home party for Stampin' Up, and I went because that's what you do when you're a friend. And I was like, oh, but I could totally do, because I was mostly scrapbooking then. I wasn't a card maker at the time. I was mostly scrapbooking, and I was like, oh, I could make my own invitations. And what I really loved about Stampin' Up in particular was it's all color coordinated. So our ink matches our cardstock, matches our markers, matches our ribbon and embellishments, and everything was like, it was like the easy button. So you didn't really have to think about, kind of coordinating things. So that's how it started. I ended up I made 150 wedding invitations, and hand stamped, hand embossed, all the things. And then I had all this stuff and was like, well, now what do I do with all this stuff? Like, so I had all this extra time on my hand after no more wedding planning. So I started doing classes and events locally, and then it just took off from there. So, yeah.
Nice. So I have some experience with Creative Memories. There was a time like in the 90s where everybody was scrapbooking, and I was like, I'm going to make my kids scrapbooks like when they got older. And I have so many half done scrapbooks, but it was huge at one point, especially before I had kids. And one product that I love that you introduced me to is it called Paper Pumpkin?
It is.
Yeah. So during COVID, and when I do my 24-hour tech break, so Paper Pumpkin, it is a monthly subscription. Yep. And it has a theme of the month, and you make like 10 cards, and it gives you all the supplies. Yeah, all the supplies you need to make these cards, and you can probably share more about it too. But my daughter and I loved doing that. So every month we'd get so excited, like what's going to be in the box. And then it was just a relaxing time. Actually, my daughter did not find it relaxing. She's not crafty yet. I ended up doing most of them. Tell us more about that, because it's a cool, fun monthly subscription.
Well, I think that's kind of what happened. I've been with Stampin' Up for 2 decades now. So when I first started, it was very much like everything was kind of all over the board, and you kind of had to, choose your own adventure and create your own projects. But within the last, 5 to 6 years, Stampin' Up's really introduced a lot of like all-inclusive sort of things. So Paper Pumpkin was first, and it is a monthly subscription. I think it's been around for 10 years or so now. But you can do like month to month, or you can kind of, skip or cancel or anytime, but it's basically a surprise box. Each month is a theme. It's usually anywhere from, 6 to 9 cards, depending on the like intensity of them, I guess, but they're really simple. Everything's included in there. So you get your inks, your block, your stamps, all the things. So it's really great. And then we also have, and more recently, they've introduced the kit collection, which I'm really excited about, because that is more focused on like different genres. So now we have scrapbooking kits, we have card kits, treat box kits, like, and it's, you can kind of pick and choose. So some people didn't like the paper pumpkin because it was, you didn't know what you were getting, right? Some of us really like to know what we're getting, where the paper pumpkin was more of a surprise. This is like a kit that you choose one off, like you buy them in the store whenever you want, and you can kind of pick by theme and by what your needs are in terms of crafting. But again, it's all inclusive. So some of them are stamping, some of them are not. Some of them are just kind of like pop them out and pop them on, stick them on. So it's really every level of crafter can kind of jump into the creativity.
Yeah, I love that because I love to create things, but I'm not good at what color goes with what and how to coordinate it. And then every page looks completely different and they don't match. But when you have like a kit, it's almost like a branding kit, like everything looks the same, which makes it much more appealing. So I love that.
Yeah. And a lot of my direct sales friends get some of the kits because they are super easy and they make really like memorable, like thank yous, right? We're all looking for ways to thank our customers and to be like appreciative of them and show them that we're thinking of them. And obviously I hand stamp a card every time I, you know, have an order and we send it off. But if that's not like your forte, that could be intimidating, right? But we do have kits that like there's no stamping even. Like you literally pop it out of the paper, you put some stickers on it and you stick it to the card and it's done, right? So it kind of is really for every level and it just makes you stand out from the crowd too. So those are really great.
And I giggle when you say that because I am like so artsy. It's a sin. But when it comes to scrapbooking and stuff like that, I've never got into it. But that being said, I love doing the cards. Right? I love making the cards. I don't know what it is about scrapbooking. I mean, maybe it's the intimidation of having to complete the book.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like finishing stuff, right?
I think it's the fast win, right? Like cards are so quick compared to a scrapbook, right? I have probably 9 scrapbooks that I need to finish right now, right?
Okay, good.
Because every time we take a vacation, I'm like, okay, I need to do another album. And it's all categorized nicely, sitting there right there staring at me. But it's just, it takes a little more time and effort. It's a bigger canvas. It's just a little more thought process. And because each thing is individual, because it's our own photos, right? So it's not like cookie cutter, I guess. And I think it does take a little bit longer. But for me, that's like my favorite part. Like I actually would consider myself more of a scrapbooker than a card maker, but I don't scrapbook anywhere near as much as I would like to because the business just keeps me too busy to actually sit down and do that sometimes. But we have a goal this year to kind of get more on that a little bit. Yeah.
Good. But when you get a handmade card, that's so special. People keep those. Like Hallmark cards, they're like, okay, read it, keep it for a while, and then, you know, it goes away unless there's a nice note written in it. But those handmade cards are very special.
I just moved my studio from, I was outside my house and we just renovated my studio here. So one of the kids moved out. So now everything's here at the house. And I had a drawer of, I have a horrible time saying that word, so don't mind me. I have a little drawer, I can't say it, but it was full of handmade cards that people have sent me over the last 19 years. And I can't get rid of them. I'm like, they all made them for me, like birthday cards and like anniversary cards and all that stuff. And that's my favorite part. Like Christmas time is just so much fun. I send out anywhere from 150 to 250 cards for Christmas, but I get so many back that my mantle is just amazing. Like if you follow me on social media, you'll see every Christmas I kind of share the picture of all the cards and I kind of do the progression of as they show up. It just kind of fills in and it's just so much fun. Yeah.
It's awesome. Now I don't know if it was you, but I remember somebody giving me this tip. If you're sending a handmade card to someone, write your little message on a sticky inside so that they can then reuse that. So it's a gift within a gift, right?
It is.
So I love that.
I never write on my cards ever. Like there's always a sticky inside. That was kind of the thing. They can use it. A lot of times they just use it for examples, but I just like that they are able to reuse it if they want to.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
so
cool.
What, if I had to ask you to pick a favorite product, and I'm sure the lineup is extensive, what would it be and why?
It's really hard. That's like picking children, you know? But I would say like right now, we actually, one of the other companies kind of dissolved and we were able to acquire some of their product, which was more scrapbooking focused than stamping focused, or it's still stamping focused. It's card focused. And I think a lot of the new scrapbooking stuff is kind of my favorite at the moment, because like I said, my goal this year is to kind of get back into scrapbooking and making it a regular habit. So we have these kits called scrapbooking workshop kits, and they're actually kind of like kits for card makers, but they like, so they give you the directions, like how to cut the paper, how to lay the paper, how, like, you know, layout A, layout B, layout C. So everything's kind of like choreographed for you, and then you just kind of put it together. And sometimes that's really nice when you've got a backlog of pages, like me, to be able to like get everything done and then put the photos in, and then you're kind of making progress that way. So those are really fun, and they're themed to our suites. So Stampin' Up has a lot of like what they call suites, and they're choreographed or coordinated products that all go together. So it's stamps and inks and embellishments and paper, they all coordinate. And now we have these scrapbooking kits that coordinate with that as well. So you can start with the basics and then let your creativity go crazy and kind of put them all together. So and do your own thing too. So I kind of like the mix of having some stuff done for you, because that's a great jumping off point. Like when you're stuck, like I'll start with a kit and just kind of get my juices going, and then I can go hog wild with the rest of it because everything coordinates. So still love the coordination.
I think those would be perfect for like beginners or people like just sort of like, do I really
Dipping
like
their toe in.
scrapbooking?
Right.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
perfect, because I mean, if you just start with papers and scissors, it's like, well, where do I begin? What do I do?
Exactly.
Right? How do I
Yeah.
make it look good? So I love that.
Okay, do you
It's
have
like
a
the easy
favorite?
button.
Yes. Do you have a favorite tool or a favorite stamp or a favorite accessory that you use all the time?
This guy right here, these two up here. I don't know if you guys can see them. That's my Stampin' Cut and Emboss and my Mini Boss. And those are die cutting and embossing machines. So you can die cut letters and like do titles in whatever color you want. And they emboss. So you can do like the embossed layers. I don't know if you guys, if you're watching the video, you can kind of see like there's embossing flowers. So it's just die cuts, so much little embellishments and things like that that you can do. And it's just really, it up levels the cards. Don't think I could live without it.
Okay. And is that a Stampin' Up item?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep. They make, I mean, all companies make them of some sort, but those are the Stampin' Up brand. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Okay, I want to dig back in. You said 19 years. I mean, I've been in direct sales for like almost 20, so I get it. And this is probably going to take a lot, but can you think back to when you first started? Like what was your first year like, and what kept you around? Like, because I'm thinking there must have been something that pulled you in and said, no, I'm a lifer here.
Yeah. And it's funny, I don't know that I knew I was a lifer in the beginning. I just loved to create, and I was drawn in just because of, I mean, it was a whole different world back then. When I started, there was no internet really. It was like, I mean, there was internet. I'm going by that far. But there was no Facebook, there was no like YouTube, no Instagram, none of that stuff existed. So it was all face to face. And I think that's what really drew me in originally, was the community. And I will say paper crafters are a pretty amazing community, and I think that's why I've stuck around for so long, is because the circle I'm in, from like, I'll be out and about here on the Cape, and I'll run into people that are in my classes or watch my videos. They'll know Nate. Like, it's just like, they're very personal. And because you're scrapbooking, right, you're showing your story, you're showing your family, you're telling your memories all the time. So they know more about you a lot of times than you know about them. But it's just really fun to kind of have that community. And they rally behind us like nothing I've ever seen. So a couple of years ago, well, actually it's 4 years ago, my husband and I actually got married in Maui on an incentive trip for Stampin' Up. And shortly after we got home was the fire in Lahaina, which was on Maui. And like, there was a lot of devastation. So I have a Stampin' Up demonstrator friend that was living there at the time, or does, she still lives there. And we coordinated together, and we did like a fundraiser to be able to raise money for the families and stuff like that. And it was all my customers and friends and crafters that really pulled together. And not only did they, provide gift certificates and things like that, but they were all packaged up in cute little, cards and little, so it was just really fun to be able to support them in that way. And it's just a small, like a small token of what they're able to do. Like, they're just really thoughtful, creative, and caring people. And I don't think I've ever found a crafter that's not sweet. Yeah. They're all just fun. Yeah. So that really keeps me around for all these years. And it was really the start of it too.
Yeah. That's a common theme. I mean, every time we have someone else on our podcast, it comes back to community and relationships. And it doesn't matter what product you're selling, it all comes back to community that keeps people there.
Yep.
Yeah. Very
That's
cool.
Definitely.
Okay, so
and
you
I don't know if I've ever mentioned.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned to you, but I was actually formerly, before all of this and during all of this, I was also a reporter for 13 years. So I spent a lot of my life trying to make people like me when they really didn't want to like me. So I feel like my relationship skills were really on point. And so then to go from that kind of environment to this kind of environment where everybody's so welcoming and, you know, being able to be collaborative, not only with my crafting friends, but my other direct sales friends, it's just been something that like has been such a blessing to my life. And I can't imagine life without it. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to see some old footage of you being a reporter.
Oh gosh.
Look that
I
up.
have some.
Okay.
I do.
So fun.
Maybe we'll link to it in the show notes. That should be.
There you go.
Should be. Jen's like, no, please, no.
Okay, so you mentioned YouTube, you mentioned Facebook. What all platforms do you use to share your business and to grow your business?
For the most part right now, it is Facebook and YouTube. I am hoping to do a little more on Instagram, but you can find me at any of them at all. They're all by the shore stamping, so all of them are the same. Yeah. Okay.
Do you have a preference? Like, do you enjoy one over the other?
No, I mean, I really use Facebook and YouTube interchange. Like they kind of are repurposed both ways. You know what I mean? So I might go live on YouTube and it goes back to Facebook, or go live on Facebook and go back to YouTube. So pretty much anything you find on one, you're going to find on the other for the most part, unless I'm doing some sort of special event. Like sometimes I will do unlisted events where they're on my YouTube channel, but of course it's just for the people who took part in the event. But yeah. So YouTube would probably be my favorite.
One thing I remember about you too is you have a Facebook business page. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily a group, but that
I've never had a group.
Yeah. And that page is very active and there are tons of people in there. The views on your videos are like astronomical. So I always thought that was interesting because everybody was on like this Facebook group.
I know.
Trend.
I always felt like I was missing the boat, but it was like, I don't want to build another thing. Like I have, and that was the thing. Like it was working. Like people they respond, they comment. Again, I go back to crafters being just phenomenal people, but they're always very interactive with me. They're always commenting on things. And so it's always been a really active, vibrant place. So I never really felt the need to do the Facebook group. So we just I just put everything out there. That's the only thing that's a little bit, maybe a little less convenient for me, is that whatever I share is public to everybody. It's not like a quiet little community. So you just kind of have to be careful of stuff like that. But I really haven't had any real negative problems with that. But been lucky. Been very lucky.
Well, and I think it's because with your Facebook page, I mean, you're very interactive with people. You're consistently showing up and making sure that, you know, everything is there for you and for your customers. So, I mean, it's a great place.
That's a great tip too for anybody who has like a business page or any sort of social media platform. I make it a goal, and it's not even a goal. It's a must. It's a non-negotiable that when somebody comments on a video or somebody comments on one of my posts, I respond back. Like it's just part of my process. Like every morning I'll wake up and I kind of look to see who's kind of interacted, and I just want them to know that I see them and that I'm appreciative of them. So I respond to everything. Yeah. And it is me. I don't have anybody helping me. So at least for now.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready for retreats? Are we ready?
Sure.
I was going to say, let's jump in. I was going to say, we need to know about these retreats.
Yeah. So Jen does something very unique to her business, and she has like weekend retreats. Sometimes they're virtual, sometimes they're in person, and it's all with her Stampin' Up. So go ahead, Jen, share all about them.
So I actually started because when I first started with Stampin' Up, I went to a in-person retreat at a local hotel all by myself. I had never been to one, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go and see what this is about. And again, crafters are amazing. So I made a bunch of connections there. And the next time I went back, they were like, they found out that I was a Stampin' Up demonstrator at the time, because I was. And they're like, oh, do you want to sell here? And I was like, sure, I'll do a booth here. Now, mind you, this was probably 15, 16 years ago. So I literally took boxes of stamps and threw them on a table, and that was my booth. We've come a long way from there. But anyway, so I was a vendor for scrapbooking retreats for probably close to 10 years, maybe 8 years. And then I was like, you know what? I want to run my own, because most of the ones that were around were run by just organizations that ran the crops. They didn't necessarily have product to work with or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to run my own. So when was the first year? 2013 was the first time I did a crop of my own. Typically, I had about 60 people with me in person. I usually had a planning team for that. I couldn't do it all by myself because it's a lot. And because the retreats I did were I wanted them to stand out from the other retreats. So I wanted them to feel a little special. So we had what was called pillow gifts. And so throughout the weekend, they'd get little hand stamped gifts that would be left on their table when they left. So like in the morning when they woke up, there would be a little present on the table. When they went to dinner and came back, there'd be a little present on the table. When they wake up the next morning, there'd be a present on the table. So like 6 times throughout the weekend, actually 5, because they'd get one when they checked in, like that was their first like welcome gift, and then 5 other times throughout the weekend they'd have another little gift that they'd get. And they were just little things that were hand stamped and put together, but it was all hand stamped, right? They were all produced 60 times 6 different ones, right? So it was a production, but it was kind of what made the event special. And then we had like make and takes that they got as part of their weekend. So they would get like a little goodie bag of product, which helped with my sales, of course. So that was kind of the goal of that, was for each person that was there, I ordered $50 worth of products. So you have $60, 60 people times $50, you know? So that was kind of a great way to me to boost my sales. But then with those products, I would provide make and takes and teach them how to use the supplies and, you know, techniques and tricks and things like that. And then of course we had the pillow gifts. So it just became, and most of the weekend they're working on their own stuff, but it was just a way for us to all come together. And I don't know if you've ever been to a crafting weekend. There is an electricity, there's like a current through that room that the creativity just surges. Like it's so easy to create when you're there, because I swear it's like it just like catapults from one person to the other, because there's just so much creative, so much creative energy in the room. So that's kind of fun. And even if you get stuck, you just get up and you walk around the room and you see what everybody else is doing, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was actually my favorite part, was handing out the pillow gifts, because I waited till everybody left, because then I could sneak up and see what everybody was doing.
See what they're doing.
So I'm like, oh, look at this. Look at what this one's doing. So it was just really fun. And then 2020, of course, I was at a vending as a vendor, because I did both. So I ran my own and I still vended at other ones. And I was at one when COVID hit. And I had my own scheduled for 2 weeks later. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I've already paid the hotel. Like, I've done all the things. Of course, the hotels let us off because that was unprecedented, right? But I was like, I don't want to like just cancel this. Like, I want to do something to like help my crafters through this time and do something fun. So we actually flipped it into a virtual retreat. So I did the whole retreat 4 days via Zoom, and I sent them all boxes. So all their pillow gifts, all their make and takes, everything went in a box, all their goodie bags went in a box, and it got shipped off to them. And then we met virtually for the 4 days. And so that went really, really well. And so then I started doing those as part of the rotation as well. So I will say I haven't done an in-person one since COVID, but you guys could be like first to hear. I have been hunting around for a hotel. So we are looking to bring back an in-person one, hopefully sometime late 2025 or sometime in 2026. So I'm excited to do them in person again. Yeah.
So do the people,
I miss my people.
I'm sure your customers are going to love it.
I know. Do they sleep there? Or do they just come back?
They do.
Forth? They do. They sleep
No, they sleep there. So, and typically we're crazy. I don't stay up this late anymore, but I used to. So it opens at 7 a.m. in the morning. I rent the big ballroom. So like they all come and they stay. They literally set up a station. So all their supplies are there. They can they set up a whole station. They like bring all the things. It's crazy amount of stuff in these rooms. But they set up at like Thursday night and they're there until Sunday afternoon. And the crop room, I always do that. The crop room is open from 7 a.m. until 3 a.m. typically. So they can craft for all that time. And then we close it down at 3 a.m. and we reopen it at 7 a.m. So we get a little bit of sleep and then we start all over and do the whole thing again. It's crazy. It's a lot. It's exhausting, but it's really, really fun. Yeah.
So how much do you charge for a whole weekend? What does that look like? And do you make money on it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, well, part of it is the cost of the goods, right? So I'm getting $50 orders from each person. Yeah. So I'm making commission off of all of that for one.
Okay.
didn't previously make a ton off of the in-person retreats besides my commission. So the way Stampin' Up structured, I would make like the max commission because my sales that month would max out too. So I would make my max commission, so like 40% commission, 38% commission on everything. So that was kind of that. And then I also have a store there, so I sell stuff at the store during the weekend too. So that would kind of offset all those things too. So the weekend itself, there was $40 profit worked into each person as well. So I would make profit off of that plus the sales of the store and the sale of the product. So it was a good amount of money for those. And then the virtuals, however, because there's no overhead expenses, right? There's no ballroom fee, there's no food fee, there's none of that. I would make even more. So those are $125 for the 4 days, and everything gets shipped to them. And then they can, participate as they can, and everything's replays so that they can participate after the fact if they need to too, because it's kind of hard to be in one spot for 4 days straight. But yeah, with all the family and the dishes and all the other things around, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're definitely profitable. Yeah.
Organization and planning and wow.
Yeah.
You should have
I've been to one.
That.
Yeah. I've been to one as a vendor, never one as a participant. And you're right. These ladies, they bring everything, like their Cricut machines, their like rope. Everything. There's like totes and suitcases, and my goodness, it was crazy the stuff that but the one thing while I was there that I did notice, it's like so-and-so was borrowing so-and-so's tools, and they were nice with sharing, because then somebody would see if they actually liked using it, if they had to invest in something, because let's be honest, the tools sometimes aren't inexpensive. So, it's like if they can test it out.
Yeah. And when I ran my own, when I ran my own, I always brought all of my stamps. So all of my stamps were there for them to use. All my punches were there for them to use. My die cutting machines were there for them to use. So they didn't have to bring everything either. I mean, they just had to be patient if they wanted to use it at the same time as somebody else. But, they had access to all of that stuff. And it just, it helped them discover whether or not they liked it. And a lot of times they'd be like, oh, I need this punch for my own stash, or I need this, machine for my own stash. So it just was a win-win for me too. Yeah.
That's really cool.
So what would you say is your favorite part of the whole retreat?
I think them, like, the surprise factor. I love the surprise factor, and like being able to come up, like, try and better my best in terms of, upping, like they always say, how are you going to up your, like, how are you going to do better next time? Like, how are you going to beat this? This time was so much fun. Like, we've done things like having an ice cream truck show up. Like, we just try and think out of the box and just do fun stuff to make the event really special and really all about them. And that's my favorite part, is how can I spoil them this time around? Like, how can I, and I love a good theme. So most of them are themed. So it might be like, the one I would like to do if I can get it to happen this year would be Halloween themed. So we're going to do like a whole spooky theme. And I love that kind of planning part of it, and then just seeing it implemented and the joy that it brings to them. That's my favorite part for sure. Yeah. And of course, connecting with all of them and seeing them in real life.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's like a reunion.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody. It's just really fun.
That's cool. So if someone were thinking about hosting a retreat like this, a weekend retreat, either virtual or in person, let's talk about in person. I feel like people are wanting to get more together.
They're ready to connect. Yeah.
Yeah. So where should they start? Like, this just seems overwhelming to me. So where do you start in planning this whole thing?
So for me, it starts with the theme. Like, obviously, you have to kind of nail down the weekend and all the logistic stuff. But once you get that like the location, right? And if you're doing just like a smaller scale thing to start, and that's probably what I would recommend. I did start with a 1 day first before I did a 4 day. And I also had vended at these events for so many years that I kind of knew how things worked. So I would definitely start smaller and then build up. But I usually start with the theme. So a lot of times I'll base the theme on product. So for instance, like we were talking before we started recording, if you had like skincare or something, maybe in the summer you could do kind of a fun, summer sun themed event, right? And you could have the cute little, sunshines and rainbows and kind of, think about all that kind of stuff. And then you show off the sunscreen and you show off the, tanner, the self tanner, and kind of make it all around that theme. But you kind of worked so that your product falls in line with that theme. So most of the time I will actually, in the background, I start with the product. So what are the products I want to use? And I'll think, oh, I want to use that holiday suite that features the gingerbread, right? And so now I go from there and I create the projects that will kind of coordinate with that. And then I'm like, oh, I could have my friend who's a baker. She's going to make some gingerbread cookies in the themes of my event. And that's going to be our treat on Saturday night, So then you kind of like work backwards so that you can kind of use the product and say, you're doing gingerbread theme because you have like a gingerbread hand lotion or something. You know what I mean? So you work the product in, and then you kind of make the theme, like the event, revolve around that product is usually what I do. So I'll start with what I want to really focus on, and then I create the experience around it. I think it's really about the experience, right? That's what you're trying to create.
Yeah. So will you plan an event?
Sure. I can totally help you plan
my
one.
summer
It'll be really fun. Yes. We could totally do that. It's so fun. I love that part of it. Yeah.
She'll be your consultant, Susan.
Absolutely.
You can just like...
Show me what you want to use and we'll figure it out. I love it. Yeah. I actually was an event planner in my past life too, so that probably helps.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, this might help, Susan, because I was going to jump in and ask you, because I am like the systems girl and the digital tools and all that
Lisa
stuff.
And you and I are totally opposite, because I am not the tech girl. I am not the systems girl. I'm like, wait, what was I supposed to do today?
Well, I was going to say, I want to know, how do you, like, because I'm sure this is like a ton of stuff to track and coordinate and all that stuff. How do you do it?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, don't tell us Post-it notes. Please don't.
Back in the day, it was a notebook. Like, it was literally all just in a notebook written down. I've gotten a little bit more advanced in that. I do mostly use Google Sheet now, or I also have Constant Contact is my email service provider right now. I don't know for how much longer, but the reason why I keep it for this long is because it has an events program. So it actually will allow me to set up an event. I can add add-ons. So that's another big perk for the events. So when they're registering, they can actually add on the stamp set that I'm using. Like, I can put it right in there and they can just add it on, or they can add in the inks that I'm using and that kind of stuff. So it's just a really easy way for me to kind of have everything in one spot. And actually I have an event right here. So then it just all kind of prints out. I print out a little sheet for each person, and then I can use that for my shipping too. So I know which ones are getting basic kits, which ones are getting the bundle, which ones are adding the inks. And that kind of helps me organize everything once I'm ready to ship it all. Yeah. So I think finding the system that works to you is important, but it did start small. Again, you got to start at the beginning, right? I started with a notebook, and everybody used to mail me their checks. Like, I didn't even have like PayPal or Stripe or anything for them to be able to give me the payments. I used to get checks in the mail, and then I'd have to keep track of who did it. And so, yeah, so it's come a long way, but it's, you start where you are, and you can always expand and get more adept at it as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so after a big...
I went revolting against those systems. I don't like systems. I'm not good at tools and tech and systems, but we did it.
All right, so after a big event like that, you've got to be exhausted, and you probably need some time away. So how do you re-energize yourself? How do you relax? I know you live by the shore, which I do too. We have that in common. We are just up the coast from each other. But what do you do to really relax and fill yourself up again?
I do absolutely nothing the day after. Like, there's nothing on my couch, probably for the few days after. I do usually get a lot of orders though, so I typically will just take that first day and absolutely do nothing. And then, you kind of do the remainder of the work, tallying up totals and making sure, you put in orders, all that kind of stuff the following day after my rest day. And then I usually kind of take that week off. Like, other than those little kind of wrapping up sort of things, I make sure I have some downtime that following week. And I don't really, schedule anything except for maybe a pedicure or something. You know what I mean? Like, I give myself that time to rest, because it is a marathon leading up to it. And the few weeks before it is very stressful, trying to make sure you don't forget anything, and you got to do prize patrols and, all the gifts and make sure everything's wrapped. And so it's a lot of prep and planning. And I always have had a really great crew of people to help me. Like we used to have a planning committee that would meet, we'd get pizza and we'd kind of plot and plan everything together and we design the make and takes. So I think bringing people along with you is good too, just so that you're not going too crazy and it's a little more fun when you have somebody else to kind of help you with all the chaos. It seems more of an adventure than just stressful, and just keeping in mind the people's faces and the excitement of the whole event when they're done. So but yeah, I definitely took a lot of time off after, at least a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking though, from these events, you're just not servicing your existing customers. You're probably gaining a lot of new customers because I'm sure there's people who bring their friends, family members, and all this stuff, right?
It was a
So,
lot of word of mouth. Like I never really had to market them, but they were always sold
okay.
out because there was a lot of word of mouth. And I'm very fortunate that the Northeast, I live on Cape Cod. I don't think we ever really talked about that. I lived on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. And so here in the Northeast, scrapbooking weekends are huge. There's probably 5 to 10 companies that do these events throughout the region. So I still do vend at several of them. So I'm collecting names and meeting new people through those events. And then they're going on my email list and learning about my events. And so there's a lot of like cross pollination too, where people are like, oh, I want to go to an event, on the South Shore, or I want to go to an event in Massachusetts. And so it's just really, really vibrant community here in the Northeast. We're really lucky. So yeah.
It's funny how different
Yeah.
regions have different things. Like
Mhm.
I can't even tell you if I've ever heard of a scrapbooking event
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania, Ohio, or New Jersey.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
I know they have them in New Jersey because I used to have a friend that used to travel down there to vend at one.
Really?
So somewhere in New Jersey they did. But I
All
know
right.
one of my friends, a fellow demonstrator, she lives in Texas and she kind of had to create it. It was not something that
Yeah.
existed there. It took a really long time for her to get them off the ground, but now hers are gangbusters too. So we worked together for a really long time to try and figure out how to make those happen for her. But we're just lucky here in the Northeast that there's a lot of them. And people are kind of used to it. Yeah.
And I
It's really
just got
fun.
to put a plug in for you because you say you're not a systems girl, but your email system, the way you email set up is like killer. If
Thank
anybody
you.
wants what an email, email marketing should look like, just
You're
you get
so
a ton of
sweet.
information and she's just spot on. Like always consistent in your inbox and a lot of value in her
Thank you.
messaging. So yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. You are a systems girl at heart.
See? Look at that. It only took me 20 years to figure it out. No, it's
Oh.
good. Thank you.
So while we're talking about that, tell us, where can we find you? Like, how can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, mostly YouTube and Facebook. Hopefully, some more on Instagram. I've been trying. I am not doing reels, you guys, and I really should be, and I know I should be. So, I've been trying to do a little bit of that now that Becky from Modern Direct Seller has been doing a lot of the samples and things that are a little bit easier than me trying to do them on my own. So, yeah, hopefully Instagram, but everything's at By the Shore Stamping. So, yeah.
And what about Pinterest?
I do have a Pinterest account, and I haven't really been using it, but I hope to do
I feel
that
like you would
again
thrive
too.
on
Yeah.
Pinterest.
I know. It's such a great thing. And I actually have a course. Actually, I think Lisa and I convinced each other to do it like years ago, and I still have not touched it, Lisa. So I'm like, I really need to get into that and figure that out. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to put a little plug because Susan and I both use software. Like we're recording right now on Riverside. And if you ended up recording on a software like that, they'll actually create your reels for you.
Oh,
So
well,
that
see,
might be
we
something
need
to
to
look at, right?
communicate. Yes,
Yeah.
I need to pick your brain. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because
I think it's
they'll
hard
just take it.
because I
Yeah.
tend to, like, my videos are off the cuff. Like, I don't necessarily plan anything. So I need to get more into a routine of a theme. You know what I mean? Like having a whole topic for a week or a month and then maybe kind of repurposing everything that way. But we're working on it. We'll get there.
Yeah. You're
We'll create
doing
a system.
So is there any piece of advice you would give to someone maybe just starting in direct sales and maybe specifically Stampin' Up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have anything. I mean, specifically Stampin' Up, I think just following what you love, right? If you're crafting and doing what you want to do because you enjoy it, people are going to be inspired by you. Like if you're doing it because it's your job, I just feel like they're not going to connect with you as much as like when you create a finished layout for yourself and you're like so excited about it, I always say, like, I leave them on my desk so that I can sneak up on them and I'm like, oh, I made that. Still 20 years later, I'm like, oh, I made that. Look at what I did. So, like if you tap into that like creative energy, I think you'll be fine. And you just kind of have to be open and sharing with people about that. But in terms of like just in general, it's not really necessarily direct sales focused. But my mama, she told me when I was younger that she used to always tell me, because I'd get very frustrated when I couldn't do things and I would just be like, forget it. And I'd give up so easily. And she'd always tell me, Jennifer, you can do anything you want to do if you want to do it bad enough. So whenever I get stuck, I'm like, all right, I can do this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Marie Forleo and her everything is figure outable, right? It's the same idea, just my mom's words, right? So she's always told me, like, I'd be like, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. And she'd be like, it's anything you want to do, you can do it if you want to do it bad enough. So that's what I usually tell myself if I get into a rut and I can't get out. I hear my mom in my head. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, before we go, do you have a website?
I do. It's actually, so more top secret information. I'm actually rebranding at the moment. So there will be a new brand coming, but as of right now, it's bytheshorestamping.com. But I am producing my Oh My High site at the moment, and there will be a new name and a new site coming soon. So yeah, stay tuned.
Nice. That's exciting. We'll look for it.
Yes.
Well, Jen, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and
thank you.
Give all your wisdom. I just love the fact that you do these retreats, and I love the fact that you shared a little insight about how other direct sellers, even those not in the stamp, like the crafting world, can even create retreats themselves. So thank you so much for that. And I hope everybody enjoyed all the takeaways that Jen has left. And we will see you again next week for another episode of The Other 99%. Take care, everyone. Bye.
That's a wrap for today's episode of The Other 99%. We just want to say thank you. It truly means the world to us that you're here. Lisa and I absolutely love creating these episodes for you, and we're so grateful to have you in our community. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to like, share with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode. We drop fresh content every Tuesday. Got thoughts, questions, or ideas? Leave us a comment. Want to be a guest on the show? We would love to chat with you. Apply by clicking the link in the show notes. Thanks again for spending time with us today, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Other 99%.